We're all doing extremely well this Saturday night, Saturday, 10th of January. I always keep thinking it's December for some reason. Rob, legend in the chat. Good evening, JB. Good evening, Rob. Hope you're doing extremely well. Ikarutsu, legend of the chat. Very good evening, JB and people in chat. Ikarutsu, send me what shirt you want, mate. Send me a shirt size. Send me the shirt that you want. Shirt size and all that stuff, buddy, and yeah, let me know, mate. So look, first things first is, it's Saturday night. Anything goes on. Well, I say anything goes on. This is your show tonight. I was supposed to do one last night. I didn't do one last night. Herbie says, legend. Good evening, JB. Good evening, Herbie. 5150 Herbie, legend of the chat, my friend. Look, guys, I hope all doing extremely well and had a good day today. Saturday night. Look, this is the Saturday night show. We can go off on the tangent. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, Mr. Wilcox needs to be spoken about. We can get onto that as well. Look, well, whether we believe it or not, I do want to caveat that with, look, getting our opinions on that. I'll give you my view. You give me yours. You tell me if you think it's fair or not. First thing to say is get into this amazing community. Now, look, one of the things I do want to say about this community is this truly is a community, right? 30,000. Now, and Herbie, I wanted to come on to that as well, Herbie. That is one of my topics for tonight as well. Is Glasner. There's a whole piece I'm going to talk about that as well. And I think, look, one of the things I wanted to mention about that is that, we talk about players. We talk about, players that play well for a season and then players who don't play well the next. And we're crying as a fan base to not go for that player. But shouldn't we do that all with a coach as well? So, look, we think about the Grimsby loss as a big one. Macclesfield Town, 14th place. You have part-time players in we're gonna be talking about that. And Rob, look, I've been messaging today my person who's close to the club, and I'll give you an update on that as well. So first thing to say, look, getting into this amazing community, 30,000. Look, congratulations to you guys. I know, look, it is unbelievable. It puts us, look, it just means that as a channel and as a community, we are doing something different. I know there are many, many United channels out there, some fantastic ones. It's not necessarily about size. It's more so about, look, it's a recognition for the channel that you guys have created. You guys have created this channel. So, legends, look, give yourselves a pat on the back. And look, it's easy for me to say, do that. What do you get out of this? And it's, I think you get, there's a place to come. But also, down the road, the bigger the channel gets, the more stuff that I can do. There's tons of stuff planned, and I want to get you guys involved. And this channel is going to be different. So to bear that in mind, look, get into the community. We don't mind if you don't support this amazing club. It's all about community. It's all about chat. So look, whatever the result today from your club, let me know about the FA Cup. Let me know about our game tomorrow and everything in between. As long as you are respectful, be respectful to the community, be respectful to yourselves, be respectful to me. We don't mind banter. We don't mind the banter. Bring it on. But look, that's it. And second thing says, look, I'm not a dictator of this chat. I really do read out your chats. If you say something and you're trying to be clever, I will read your chat out, or the community will put you in your place. And look, it's not threat. It's just, this is what this channel does. It reads out your chats. So get in there with that, and obviously give us a subscribe as well. It's all completely free. It really, really helps the channel out. So look, get into the good stuff. So look, Rob says Wilcox out for me. Glasner is a no for me. Do you think Ollie will be at the wheel after today's meeting? So look, I'll give you the backstory, because I'm not gonna shy away from the fact that we've been right on a bunch of stuff. Look, I've been saying since the beginning of the week, probably, yeah, since the beginning of the week. Now, look, I get bits and pieces. Person that I've been talking to has been very, very. The mods on are watching to be exactly Nikarusu, legend. I get bits and bobs, and this person, look, I'm beginning to trust this person. They have been right. They have been right on so many things so far. And one of the things that I've been told is I've been told the whole of the process of what's been happening. And we spoke about Ollie coming back into it. Ollie was the favourite. It was then said that Carrick was coming in the next day. Carrick did come in, interviewed, he impressed. Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. He's been brought into that, but he's further down the list. Fletcher as well. Fletcher's being considered now. The thing here is that what this is about. This is about ego, right? This is about who can get their man in. Now, Ollie is the favourite. I've been told this, and I've been maintaining this. Dino says always watching. I did Dino see my curtains twitch, so you know. I've been told that Ollie is still the favourite, but this is an ego trip as well. Now people like Fletcher, now it's going to be seen as who is going to. I don't doubt it, Dina, for a second. With Ollie and the appointment, it's going to be seen as who can get their ego in place. And look, I will come into the ego bit as well. There's also another part here is cost, right? It's also Ollie. Who's he going to bring in as his backroom staff? You know, is it going to be Ollie? You know, it's going to be Evans is going to be part of it as well. Can Fletcher be part of it? As well, so it's more about structure. It's more about ego as well. You know, Wilcox, and we will come on to him because some of the stuff that's been coming out today. Look, I'm going to caveat it with a pinch of salt, but it does make sense to me as to what is going on. But it's all about Ollie is the favourite still. This is what I'm being told. Ollie is the favourite, but it is being pushed close. The one thing that's going to sway this is ego. Who's got the most power, or who can convince the hierarchy the most, and what's his space? So look, as far as I know, as far as I've been told, Ollie is still the favourite, but this meeting today is really pivotal in terms of he's come in to plead his case in terms of the backroom staff. So we're going to watch that, and we'll see that. And the first that I know, I will let you know on that. Herbie says, I don't want to become apathetic with regards to United, but my expectations are now nowhere near as high as they were when Amron came in. Just got to enjoy what we can when we can. And Herbie, look, mate, I absolutely get that. I absolutely get it completely. I'm never going to prescribe to that, Herbie. And look, mate, this is I think you have to do what gets you through, right? And I completely respect the comment. You know, I think people have to do what gets them through the day, right? My opinion is this, and my opinion will always be this, is that I think you guys need to do what gets you through, right? I will always support you guys on that. So whether or not it's, you know, you got to accept the position, and I think to a certain degree we have to, but for me on this channel and for what I'm trying to do here is I can never accept it. I will accept the position that we're in, and I will never, you know, try to over-egg the pudding and start saying that we're going to finish fourth or first for clicks. I'll always be realistic, but I've always got to hold this club to another standard, because the moment we let the standard slip is where the Glazers have won, is where Sir Jim has won, because they want us. This is what they want us to do. They want us to have those standards slip, so it means that if we win an FA Cup or we get a player, this fan base is automatically on side, as opposed to if you're supposed to be winning the league and we don't. This fan base, in my view, and this is my own view, I will never accept second best. I will never accept second best. Whether it means that I enjoy it. Look, whether I enjoy it or not, I'm still going to be here. It's not about. This is about more than enjoyment. This is about what's right for me. It's about what is right for this club. And look, I put a YouTube short on today, right? And the financial part of this is ridiculous. Look, I knew it anyway, right? But I just wanted to put that out there today because and look, this is only from a month ago, by the way. If you want to know why I can never accept second best from this club, the Glazers, if you want to know why I'm passionate about this club and behind the scenes, go and watch the video. It's about a minute long, and the figures involved are absolutely catastrophic. But look, Herbie, Matt, I absolutely agree with you. Look, there is nothing wrong tomorrow in celebrate. Like, if we win tomorrow, I will celebrate the win. I don't really care right now about this place. This is bigger than the club. I think tomorrow I'm gonna support the team. Just because I don't like the place, I can separate the short term from the long term. Look, we need an FA Cup run, right? We need to win an FA Cup. I can put aside my dislike of players. I can compartmentalize certain things, right? Just because I can't stand these players, just because I don't agree, doesn't mean from a game that I know we have to win and a game that pushes us towards a final. I know we are weeks and weeks away off, but anything that we can get, we've got to take. So look, I will support the team tomorrow, and I will support him. But Herbie, look, mate, I think you've got to do, and we've got to do what gets us through. Gelamin says, I think we should make one of the Glazers the manager, one McAdams, so they can see. You know what, right? I think the thing is, I agree with you, but they don't care. They like I would love it. I would love it for them to be on the end of it, right? They don't care, mate. They don't care. Steve Legend, when it comes to the fan base, nostalgia versus reality, divide and conquer. It is, Steve. JB, standards have mightily dropped when we are hiring kids of a friend instead of best in class. Thank you, Nikaritsu, buddy. Appreciate it, mate. I'm glad, even though United is crap, they aren't in as much trouble as my local club is. JB, thanks for the update. Have your contacts told you when it will be announced, the caretaker? So Rob, what is going on? And the reason why it's been purposefully pushed out, Rob, because what they want to do, what this club is doing, is they're almost making the interim race like the transfer window. So what they're doing is they're making the interim race. So it literally is distracting you from basically the time of the month. Basically, we are 10th. There are 21 days left in this window. If they can push it out to like the 15th, then they will do, because then that's half of the length of the window gone. Look, they're going to have to do it, right? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they try to push it out as long as they could. I would say next week is probably when they're going to have to stop to do it. But I would say, look, just keep an eye. Next week I think is going to be the week. But I've been told, look, don't be surprised if they try to push it out longer, because they're trying to do anything they can to drag out this window. There's a link today, and I'll tell you what I saw today. And look, this is absolute complete spin and utter dross today. So one of the things that I saw, I can't remember whose account it was, but apparently we're going to put in a 90 million bid for a Diamondo, right? Bundesliga, Leipzig player. So apparently we're going to be putting in a £90 million bid this month. What's a pile of shit? Why would we put in a £90 million bid for a position that we don't need and not midfielders? Why would you not go and spend 15 million on a Neves? Why would you not go and spend 26 million pounds on a Gallagher, who, by the way, is probably going to go to Aston Villa, which I think is a fucking crime? So why would you not go and get those two deals done for in and around 41, 42 million pounds to flesh out a team, as opposed to going to spend 90 million pounds on a single player? It's ludicrous. So what United are basically doing is they're trying to stretch this out. So the longer the transfer window goes on, the better. So Rob, the early consensus is it's going to be sort of mid next week. It could be. Look, one of the things to consider is if we lose to Brighton, it will be announced quickly, because if we win tomorrow, they can stretch it out. But if we lose and go out of the cup tomorrow, and it is a load of crap, they will announce it quickly. So Niku says, I will always back the team, will never agree with the management or hires up, just like in real life. We will come out of this terrible phase, will take a good few years, but we will return to Serbia. And look, mate, I hope we do. I've been wishing this for 13 years. It's eventually we will do. It might take 20 years. It might take 5 years. I've got a sneaky suspicion. That things are going to happen. Ineos, Sir Jim, financially, this is not making sense, and I will come on to that as well. But Herbie, look, I think that you are right. It's just how long it takes. Rob says, haha, it won't surprise me they drag it out and keep Fletcher in for a couple of more games. Diamante for 90, that's got to be made up, surely. Did Baleba fly out with Amarin? And look, it is complete nonsense. It is complete fabrication. Look, we're going to get spin. We're going to get spin now, and this is going to be with the interim manager, the manager. This is all going to be complete spin. If it's true, JB, it's a bluff to show the fan base that they're trying to sign players in January to try to distract the fan base. Exactly. No signings except for loans if there are any transfers. And Dino, mate, you know my stance on this. I've been saying this since December. There will be no signings in this club unless it's a loan signing. And I can reveal the reason why I've been saying that is because I've been contacted by my source, and that's what they've been feeding me since November time. Is basically they're not going to sign anybody, and I've been banging on this drum for weeks and weeks and weeks. We're not going to sign players unless it's a loan player, but we don't want to do signings. Dumb say 20 years. Scott is in the house, legend, and I hope you are doing extremely well. So let's get on to the sort of main headline on this. JB's on fire. Wilcox should be. Wilcox should be terrified. Wilcox should be absolutely frigging terrified. Let's get on to the headline. So Jason Wilcox, look, give me your opinions on him. I mean, I think Cox is definitely the correct word for him. Are you confident for the game tomorrow? Who do you think will start? I hope Lacey gets the nod. Well, so am I confident for tomorrow's game? No. The problem for me, and what gets me so frustrated with this team right now is I don't know. I think. Do you think Carrick been interviewed first? No. Ollie was interviewed first. Ollie was interviewed first. He wasn't interviewed second. Carrick was interviewed second. Ollie has been interviewed again. This is Ollie's second one. Look, this managerial appointment is all about ego. It's all about who can deflect the most, who's going to bring the positivity back to the club the quickest. So look, I've been told Ollie is still the guy, but Ruud van Nistelrooy has come into it. But there are so many egos at play there. And look, the moment I know, if I do know, Jimbo says Liverpool 7, United 0. Jimbo, mate. Look, we don't mind the banter, mate. We do not mind the banter. All I'm going to say, Jimbo, to that, my friend, is you've been timed out by Scott. Scotty, the banhammer is on it. Rob, am I confident for the game tomorrow? No, mate, because, I think one of the things I think we do as a fan base, and look, as we should, right? As we should do, we should expect to win every single game. And I agree with that statement. I know what we are. So look, I expect to win this game conceptually. Do I think we can win it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust. Look, I don't trust these players. I don't trust these players. I know what these players are. Look, these players could go and win 3-1 tomorrow, just the same as these players could lose tomorrow. Until we go on some sort of run, I genuinely don't know. I do think tomorrow could be, we could win it, just as we could lose it. So I cannot predict tomorrow. I think Gabriel will play tomorrow. There's lots of talk of Gabriel playing tomorrow. There is lots of talk of him being in the subs. I think you might see Gabriel play tomorrow, not from the start. I don't think Lacey will play from the start, but I do think that you're going to see Gabriel on the bench tomorrow. So I would say keep an eye out for that one. It's a piece of information that I've been told as well, is that watch out tomorrow for Gabriel on the bench. He is in contention, and one of the reasons for that is because, look, the FA Cup is a very historic competition, and if Gabriel comes on tomorrow, he will be the youngest player, and I think he'll be the competition's youngest ever player. So watch out for that tomorrow. So one of the pieces of information that I've been fed today is watch out for Gabriel tomorrow. Watch out on that. Dino says, would you rather spend 30 million on sacking a manager than those funds to make signings? I would rather sign players. Look, Amarin was only sacked because of Wilcox's ego. And look, I'll come on to it. So basically, one of the rumours as to why it all kicked off, right? And the reason why Amarin's comments for the manager comments, right, as to why he is the manager and not a coach, because Wilcox behind the scenes has described himself as the manager behind the scenes. He's referred to Amarin as the head coach, but he's referred to himself as the manager behind the scenes. It makes sense. Look, if you put 2 and 2 together, it completely makes sense. What a twat. Again, I have to play devil's advocate here and play the both sides. Maybe it wasn't said, but if you look at what Rubin said and how quickly he went, it makes total sense. Wilcox's ego is out of control. You can see it. The reports are behind the scenes. Wilcox thinks that, and if you listen to actually go back and you listen to some of the things that he says, and this makes complete sense as well. Is one of the things he has spoken about. He did an interview on MU TV where he basically was alluding to the fact that he wanted to be a manager and he feels that he's got the credentials to be the manager. It makes complete sense, and I truly believe that this was the case, because if you think about it, Wilcox and him work very, very close together. And now you've got him coming out basically saying that he is the manager behind the scenes and Ruben is the coach. It is ludicrous. Look, we spoke about this again, right? And we'll talk about this as many times as we sort of need to. Look, I know there's a game tomorrow. Look, I do want to win these games. And look, one of the things about the interim coach, and we can look at the manager who comes in, unless Wilcox is sacked, they're gonna have to work with this guy. This guy thinks that he's a manager. This guy's ego is ridiculous. How they're gonna want, what they want is a yes man. They want somebody to come in and basically just coach this side. Wilcox wants to dictate this. Wilcox wants to dictate this. Vavel is apparently gonna take a step up as well. So you're gonna have a Vavel, you're gonna have a Wilcox basically fighting for the shots, and then you're gonna have to bring in a coach to this. I mean, this is gonna be a mess. This is a mess already. Look, Fletcher. The reason why Fletcher works right now is because obviously Fletcher's come up from the under 18s, so Fletcher's pretty much done every job, from the canteen lady, the bog cleaner. He's been in the backroom staff. He's been a coach. So Fletcher fits in well because he's basically going to do what he's been told. And there is something that I wanted to mention that as well, because he did an interview with a Hargreaves as well, and this goes to show how thick the club is as well. So look, we will come on to that as well. So look, give me your opinions on Jason Wilcox, because I think he is the problem. He's not a complete problem, and again there are layers to this. You've got the manager who is the front guy. You've got the players. You've got him, and then look, he's expendable as well, and this is the thing that Wilcox really needs to be careful of as well, is because as much as he's got an ego, and you can see it, he's surplus to requirements as well. His head is on the chopping block as well, and look, I want these people to do well. I want Wilcox to do well. It might seem like all is doom and gloom, right? But I know what best of the best is, and these people are not, and I want these people to succeed. When they come into the club, I thought Omar Barada was going to be this new guy. I was excited. We've basically gone to City and we've stolen their guy and up yours to City. City were just laughing at us. City won 10-1 today. Man City won 10-1 today. That is what a big club does. Semenyo scored today. City won 10-1 today, and people will say that it's only an Exeter, right? But it doesn't matter. You look at Palace today. They lost 2-1 to a semi-pro non-league side. City won 10-1. They went and got Semenyo. Did they need Semenyo? Probably not. But they went out and done their business, and this is what we need to be. And sadly, we've got people like Sir Jim in charge who has no idea. Wilcox in charge, and it's not best in class. Best in class is going to get a Semenyo and you don't need to sign him, and going to win 10-1. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, we are years behind. So look, get in your comments, and look, I'm going to read your comments. Let's get into the comments. Sacked a lot of them for me. There's a curse on the club called the Glazers' 20-year anniversary, and not just the destruction of the club, but Old Trafford as well. Nothing will change until the curse is lifted. Steve, I do agree with you. Would much prefer Carrick. Hell, more of an idea of what to do than that twat of a midfield. Nice one, Jimbo. Remember Garnacho and Ahmad goal. Mr. Banhammer, yes, he is. 2-0 Shesko and Lacey would be a dream. I'd love Shesko to score. Look, I don't mind any of them scoring tomorrow. I would love a Shesko. Lacey, that would be fantastic. Messi or Ronaldo. Look, I always get asked this, and it's really, really easy for me to say this. Messi is a gift, an absolute genius. What a gift. I'd never thought I'd see a Maradona. A Maradona to me was an artist. Messi is an artist, right? Absolute fantastic player. Cristiano is the epitome of hard work. If you're a young football player with a talent, right? Look at what he does. He was raw, but he shows you what you can achieve with a mindset. Of course, you've got to have the physical attributes, you've got to have the talent there, but he's made use of those talents and exemplified those. So Stinky Fart says, I hope he doesn't flop. Let's hope United don't bring in Wilfred Nancy, who loves 3-4-3. Lacey and JJ on at the same time would be amazing. How did these wankers end up in those positions? Mates rates. It is mates rates. That's all it is mates rates. We need to go back to having an actual manager, one who calls all the shots. Agreed. If it was up to me, I would bring in a Ancelotti. The problem for me is outside. Like, you've got Pep, you've got Klopp, right? They're never coming, right? So outside of those, who are the world's top coaches? I would bring in the world's best coach, because we've got to. Mediocrity is over. Bureaucracy runs football. I do agree with you. Beast says, hi, hello Beast. Look at what Emery has done at Villa as the manager. And I agree with you. If you've watched the channel before, my preference is always for Emery. I think if you look, I know he's not necessarily everybody's top choice. I know he's probably not the most romantic choice. I would pick Eddie Howe as well. Look, when we're talking about a manager, we've got to talk about a realistic coach who's going to come in and work with this side. He's going to have to come in and we're not going to be buying, we're going to be spun around and told we're going to be buying £100 million players. No. We're going to be buying 2 or 3 players to add to the squad. But the new manager is going to have to work with a Luke Shaw. He's going to have to work with a Maguire. I think Maguire might stay. He's going to have to work with this team. He's going to have to promote the youth. And I think Emery's perfect for that. I think Eddie Howe. If I had my choice, I would probably go for Eddie Howe right now, because I think he's a gettable coach. Emery would be the guy that I would go and get. But, I've been following my local Sunday League team more and more. That's all house. Wilcox wants more power, but none of the limelight. He's a snake. David, yo JB, I hope you're doing extremely well. Gasbag says James. Oh, come on, James. Come on, James, mate. It's a Saturday night. Go and grab yourself a beer, right? Chill out, mate. Relax. Alex Ferguson says Fletcher is a Glazer puppet. All this nonsense about interviewing a caretaker manager is to drag it out so they don't have time to buy players. Glazer should sat in yours. Exactly what I said, Alex Ferguson. At the top of the show, it's exactly what I said. Completely agree with you. Completely. They're dragging it out so they don't have to buy players. Wilcox is a media appeaser shadow. Sadly, the United board don't care. Someone needs to speak to United. You never had any players who could play his style of play. No, And look, and that is such a fair and good point. We've been banging on about this. I've been banging on about this since August. Amrin never had his place. He plays a special. How can you? Right, how can you, as well, Jason Wilcox should be fired for hiring this coach? And it's not because Amrin, in my view, is that bad, right? It's a failure. It's an abject failure because what they did, what they signed. If you take the context of everything that Amrin wasn't in charge for 18 months. Wilcox has to go. Like, Wilcox has to go. Why hasn't he gone? Because this is his doing. Rob says City's too far ahead. Lucky's in the house. Ineos Glazers out. Manuel Ugarte to sell. Joe Gomez from 40. He wants to leave. Friends. Best friends. Friends. Man City friends. Friends. Alex says our club is a farce right now. I do agree with you completely. If you look at our historical progression, we had McClare, Robson, Irwin, none the absolute best, but they made the foundation, and that's what we lack now. And mate, I say this all of the time. If you look at the squad that we had, and let's just remove a nostalgic factor. I'm literally talking about the tops of players, right? You always had players in this side who would give everything they had, and we wouldn't even mind sitting on the bench, and when they were called upon, they would do a job. Probably the epitome of that was McClare. I think Dennis Irwin for me was a first teamer, so I wouldn't put him in that. But I would also disagree. I think Irwin was the absolute best, but Robson towards the end of his career, towards the end of his career winning the Premier League, he was sort of like, wasn't really the mainstayer. And over the years, you had Nicky Butt, Phil Neville, McClare, Quinton Fortune, Jordi Cruyff, bloody hell. Louis Saha, O'Shea, Wes Brown at one point as well, Henningberg, May. We had so many of these players. Park. You had so many of these players who would sit on a bench but knew that their time would come. They were all about it. Solskjaer was probably the epitome of one of those players who should have been a starter. Solskjaer could have gone to a number of clubs. Solskjaer could have started for a number of clubs, and he would have been a starter. People don't realise how good he was. You've got a player that used to come onto the pitch, and the reason why he scored goals, because as a player he was very, very good at watching teams, and it was no coincidence that he would come on and score goals. Javier Hernandez was a very, very similar player, but Solskjaer was for God's sake, he came on against Forest at half time and scored 4 goals. The epitome. And as you said, that we don't have those players, and I'm not just going back historically, but even now it is the same thing. You need those squad players who are going to come on and make a difference. Simple as that. Eden says, the last time I told Amrin is a great person, but not for us. I'm sad to say this, but we don't have time for the process and building. We need a shock to wake up an energetic team that believe in something. Mate, we are it's toxic. Luis Enrique is the manager I'd love, but it won't happen because 90% of our team can't play football and would need a massive rebuild. Hi, you will make it in life, mate. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that, buddy. Thanks, mate. I agree with you on the manager, JB. We need a top manager to manage the biggest club in the world, but Ineos want a yes man. Jerry says, Celtic fan here. A solid English coach is what United need in Eddie Howe. Fits the bill. Been successful and in the champion. I agree with you. I would like an Eddie Howe. I know people and I respect it. Right. I know people want a Xavi, Zidane. They want the Nagelsmann. Look, I think we're trying to run before we can walk. I think Eddie Howe is a good coach. I would do. Alexandra says we're not going to go for Zidane, are we? No, I saw that another channel. I assumed it was a joke. Look, Alex, mate. Look, we're not going. Look, there are so many channels that will tell you for clicks. Right, we don't do that on here. Right. One of the things we do on here is have a logical chat, right? At the moment, positivity is very limited, but I will get onto some more positive things as well. But look, one of the things we try to do here is look, I will give you my opinion. You give me yours. Zidane is not coming. Look. Let's from a logical perspective. So then. What then I would do is I would then go back to those channels that are saying Zidane is coming. I'd go back to them and basically go, what are you talking about, you absolute dickheads, right? Because logically, think about this, right? Is Zidane would have, right? Zidane doesn't speak English, for starters. Zidane is going to be very, very expensive. Zidane won, was it 3 Champions Leagues or 4 Champions Leagues? Zidane is used to working with the best players in the world. Can you imagine Zidane walking into this squad and working with Luke Shaw? Because what you are going to have now is you're going to have people saying, oh, well, we're going to sell 10 players. Well, we're not selling 10 players and buying 10 players. We will probably let go of 4 players. We'll let go of Maguire because he's going to go for free. He might stay, but Sancho is going on a free. Casemiro can go on a free. Malacia can go on a free. Those are the only 4 players that can actually go, legitimately go. Is Zidane, just logically think about it, right? Zidane is used to managing the biggest club in the world, managing the best players, and won the Champions League 3 or 4 times on the bounce. Is he going to come to a rebuild? He's not going to get his players. It's ludicrous. Unless they basically lie to him, pay him as much money as they can. That is the only reason that he'd come. But this club, I would admire the ambition if this club said, look, we're going to go for basically boom or bust. We're going to get Zidane, we're going to spend £1 billion, and we're going to literally risk it all on black, right? We're never going to do that. Biron says, a lot of talk about Zidane. Biron, do not believe it, mate. Do not believe it. Like, as I've just said there, unless this club has basically promised Zidane they're going to spend £500 million to £1 billion on his players. That is the only way he is going to come. I don't see how Zidane is going to look. I don't mind having the conversation. I'm not going to rule anything out. But I mean, I'll be stunned. I'll be absolutely stunned if Zidane comes into the club. All I'm going to say is this. Can you imagine Zinedine Zidane working with Luke Shaw? Friend, City for our friend. A lot of quality youth players have been ruined at United because the first team sucks. Lacey needs to start for me tomorrow, at least 45 minutes run, so we can see what he's made of. I do agree with you. I don't know why that is, mate. 2030 now. Yeah, don't know, mate. Carrick, it is then. Okay, goodbye. Absolutely agree, but we have no foundation. Nothing we can build on. What we need, how is a proper manager to build? I know many disagree, but without the foundation that starts with the manager. Agree with you. Agree with you. We need a foundation. This is why I keep saying, like, while people have been saying, "Oh, let's go get a Belabor and Anderson," right? If your foundations are not right, if your foundations are not built right, and that includes the players and the coach, if you put an Anderson into this team, what's he gonna do? Like, we don't just need an Anderson, we need a Neves, we need a Gallagher, we need a Gomez, we need, another experienced centre back, we need wing backs or left backs. Like, we need a better squad. And then what that then means is that if you've got a squad of good players who are experienced players, then you can bring in the youth. The reason why we burn through the youth, and I keep saying this, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face, is you cannot bring in youth players without that support. The only reason why the class of '92. Look, imagine this: you've got a Paul Scholes. You bring him into the squad, and he's got Roy Keane is in there. You've got Giggsy around you, you've got Kanchelskis around you, you've got Andy Cole around you, you've got Peter Schmeichel around you. You've got so many. Imagine training with those players. You're a young kid, and imagine you're playing. You've got excellence, you've got experience, and then when you go onto that pitch, if somebody tackles you to the ground or somebody is behaving in a particular way, you've got big schmikes jumping in there, chucking punches in. You've got Keno. Keno's there. Giggsy, Andy Cole. You've got a bunch of players who are not going to take any shit. Can you imagine Lacey tomorrow? Lacey comes into this team tomorrow, and one of the players tackling to the ground. Who's basically going to walk over? Is Bruno Fernandes going to start swinging punches? No, and I'm not saying that he's got to swing a punch, but what I'm saying is he going to sprint over to him, grab him by the throat, and go, "If you touch that kid again, I'm literally going to come after you"? No, and this is what you need. You need a foundation where these kids can be free to make a mistake. These kids can be free to mess up. These kids can come in and have the freedom to make errors. Yoro, he's getting pelters. What is he, 19, 20 years old? He's getting absolute pelters. The guy's a kid. He literally is a kid. Shesko, David Beckham came back into the squad when he was 20, 21. It wasn't until he was about 21. He was more of a better player, right? Shesko's 22. And people are giving him shit. How are these young guns, these young players without support supposed to do? Shesko should be Shesko should be walking into the squad, and there should be an Andy Cole type. There should be a Rooney type, a Ruud van Nistelrooy type, a Van Persie type to help him. If you put Shesko 2 years under a Van Persie, you put Shesko 2 years training with a Ruud van Nistelrooy, I guarantee you Shesko would be better, quicker. But all we want to do is blast these players. Xerxes, 21 years old when we signed him, I think he was. After 4 months, this fan base were calling him shit. This fan base were calling him out, telling him to piss off. The guy's 21. He's not. He's 21 years old. And yes, I get. You're a man. He's not. He's a kid. And how are these young guys, these young guns who are not finished? They are still early on in their playing careers. By the time he's 24, 25, then yes, I would probably expect more. But when you're 18, 19, probably all the way up to 23 years old, you're still trying to apply your trade. So how are these young players, youngish players, young men supposed to come into the side and progress when they get pelters? Nico said Zidane would have a translator if he was silly enough to come in. Danny roll. Danny roll. Trust the Glazers. They always make the right decisions. Yeah. Yep. Top class manager will want to be the manager and not just the head coach. With this in mind, it might be difficult. I agree with you, Rob. I think Tuchel will probably be the man. Glasner, look, we will get on to Glasner as well, because I wanted to mention that as well. So I will get on to that as well. I'll go through the chat and then I will come on to the manager situation as well. How Emery, for me, to prove Prem was forward thinking play styles. Either one of them would do well for us. Zidane and Xavi are only linked because of their names. Exactly. I like Pochettino experience in the Prem and a good coach. Look, and again, look, Freedom, get in those opinions. Pochettino is not for me, but it doesn't mean he wouldn't be a good coach. For me, Pochettino, one of the reasons why I wouldn't take him here is because he failed at Spurs. Look, I respect the opinion, not calling it out. Pochettino is not for me, but I can see why people would want him. And also as well, Pochettino is a yes man as well. So no desire to have Zidane. It would be a disaster in my opinion. I would prefer Howe or Conte. Look at how he has got players like Scott McTominay and Rasmus playing. He's a top coach. I agree with you. Take the Celtic approach, sack everyone, then win. Then we'll win the Champions League. Totally agree with your comment about running before you can walk. Get a coach who will get back to the top tier of English football before we start to worry about Europe again. Exactly, Jerry. The managers that could have been persuaded to come to United are those expecting a Mahoosive payday. I do agree. Hat says, hi JB, can't hear you because I'm in bed with no volume. But what's going on? Carrick and Ollie seem like they've changed their mind. At least that's what the media says. No. It's Ollie, Carrick, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Fletcher. Ollie is still the favourite. From what I've been told, Ollie is still the favourite. The problem, there are two things at play. Well, there are three things at play here. Number one is which of the managers are going to provide enough cover and enough positivity in the interim to allow them to basically ride the window of this, ride the positivity wave until the end of the window, and who can create a positive vibe, right? Second of all, another consideration is Ollie did get sacked and get paid out. Can they justify that? Because it makes them look a bit fucking stupid. And the backroom staff. Look, Ollie is the favourite, but there are egos at play. Each different person who has a say wants their own man in. So this is a Wilcox ego, a Vavel ego, a Barada ego. Sir Jim has got his own thoughts as well. So this is about, look, Ollie is still the favourite, but it's literally about who's going to get the way, and can Ollie really convince them that, look, the positivity that he will provide is going to be greater than everyone else. Damn it, darn it, JB, you and that friend, my new ringtone. I know, mate. It's great, isn't it? Blade said, in my opinion, the problem at United is the owners and the sport. Blades, I agree with you, mate. I think, look, not just because I agree with you. Look, I'm not going to read out the comments whereby I agree with people. I do agree with you. In my view, look, as much as I can't stand these players, I think these players are limited players. I think they turn it on and off. I think they don't run enough. I think they're a poor excuse as a team. But push that to the side. This is the Glazers. Did you know, and you probably do know this, Glazers lumped £640 million of debt onto the club when they bought it. to bear in mind, this club was free of debt. Since then, the value of the money that they owe, £730 million. Be ready for this, because this will shock you. The interest payments, and I'm talking about, and this is not just, this is basically the money you pay for just having the debt. We've paid 800 million plus, £830 million just to service the debt. We've paid £800 million in interest. So the Glazers bought this club for 640 million, which they used for debt. It's gone up to 720, and we've paid 800 million pounds. Not the Glazers, not the Glazers, by the way. The club has paid 800 million pounds to service the Glazers' debt. Bear that in mind. The Glazers have also taken £1 billion out. And I'm just not talking on players. I'm talking about for their family, dividend payments over 20 years. They've taken £1 billion out. So they've basically bought the club on debt. They've never paid it back. They've used the club income, so your money that you pay for shirts, sponsorships. They've used that money, instead of using their money to pay off the debt. They won't do that. They've used £800 million of the club's money to pay interest. Not a single penny of it has gone on paying off the debt. It's all gone on interest. And on top of that, they've taken out £1 billion from money from the club. And they also want to sell this club for £6 billion. I want you to let that sink in. So this is why it's completely and utterly the owner's fault. Joe said Ancelotti done nothing with the mediocre Everton team. He'll do nothing with the current squad. Luis Enrique available in the summer. He's not available. He's not available. He's got his contract extended to 2027. So Enrique's not available this summer. He'll be available next. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't get him. The fact they are even entertaining Ollie coming back just shows how United, a fallen great player, a lovely guy, but awful manager, we truly have become a terrible club. This is the state of our club, mate. I wish we had those players now. Exactly. Club needs to be sold proper and rebooted from the bottom up. I couldn't agree more. And look, this is why, and I'm going to highlight again. I'm going to try to do this on every single show. By the way, on the 1st of February, there are planned. The protests are planned. The protests are back. I can't believe that no other channel, no one else is promoting this. I can't believe that no other channel is talking about this. There are going to be protests from 1950 and like some groups. Going to be protests on Fulham game 1st February, I think. That is what we need. We need numbers. We need numbers. We need protests. Numbers. That is the only way. Look, they are distracting this fan base, and we're talking about who's going to be the interim manager. Look, I don't blame us, and this is not a dig at you. This is not a dig at me because I fall into the same trap because I'm getting pissed off at who they're going to appoint. But we've been suckered in. We're talking about and debating about the next interim coach, not even the manager. We're all falling into this trap of, oh my God, look, who's he going to be? Oh my God, Ollie, is it going to be Fletcher? Who gives a flying fuck? Like, what? Why are we so concerned? It doesn't matter. Like, and I'm bringing myself into this. Like, I was sort of today, like I was having this thought about, is it going to be Ollie? Oh my God, it'll be crap. I'm getting distracted from the real issue here. The real issue here is, who gives a fuck about the interim manager? Why did they sack a coach? Who is responsible? We've almost forgotten that. And I know we've got to move on. But the conversation has moved on about who's going to be the next interim manager. Who gives a flying shit? Like, Ineos have written, like, this is how thick they are, by the way, right? And I'm going to touch on the Fletcher Hargreaves interview as well. So let me go through the chats, and I'll go through that as well, because this is how limited and how thick they are. There's a quality manager in Nancy looking for a job. I agree that you are missing a leader who will back up the young upcoming stars. Bruno will stand there flapping his arms. Crystal Palace lost. Yes, they did. I'll confess, my granddad is Billy McKay, United defender, so I'm biased. Where our team is, Ollie, mate. Legend, absolute legend, my friend. Look, welcome to the channel, my friend. Look, you've got to be biased. I'm biased towards the club as well, friends. But look, the fact that your granddad played for the club, look, you know more than anybody. It is born into you. And that is my point completely. There are people like STJ, mate. Your granddad played for United. Like, how amazing is that? The fact that you can come on here and tell us that, mate. Look, that means so much to me, and means so much to this channel, right? That we've got someone in the chat that their granddad used to play for this club. So it literally is part of you. And you're right. Where are the Parks? Where are the Mark Hugheses? Where are the Brian McClares? Where are the Paul Parkers, the Irwins? And what I mean by that is, where are those players? Where are the O'Sheas? Where are those players? I says, you made a great point last night, mate. You said we could buy 3 top midfielders for the price of 1. So why can't the board see this? Just listen to JB. It is so obviously clear that people in charge don't know. It is so. Look, you and I in this community, right? We talk about this stuff. It's so simple to football is overcomplicated at times, right? When you sit back and you look at this side, the problem here is that the hierarchy think that we've got a good team. And this is the problem. The hierarchy think that we've got a good team, and they think by adding in a couple of star players, if you add an Anderson into this squad, nothing will change. He will be another frustrated player. What about the back 4? What about the right back, the left back? Ridiculous. Sully Legend says, how's it going, mate? Ahmad and Mbeumo coming back is great. Please let's forget they made Amrin go with the bare bones squad in a crucial period. He was not back in any way, shape or form. Sully agreed. Crystal Palace lost. Yes, they did. Do you want a long-term manager or a short-term fix? It's got to be a long-term manager. It's got to be long-term, and it's got to be. Look, I want a manager, and the project thing, right? I can't stand that term, a project. Like, it's a reset, right? Instead of a reset and a project, it shouldn't be a project. What it should be, and what it always should have been from the very, very beginning, is this. In my view, the club sets the standards. The club sets, we want to play a 4-3-3 or a version of that, But our criteria, which we want in a coach, is you have to play a back four. You've got to play youth. You've got to have at least one youth member in your squad every single game. And look, I'm not saying you've got to dictate to the manager. I'm just saying that these are the principles, and if you want to manage within the principles, fantastic. I want a manager who's going to come in to manage the squad. You need at least one youth player in that squad every single game. We want attacking football. Within that parameter, go for it. Manage. We'll talk about players. We're not just going to go buy any player, but we'll talk about it. But within those parameters that the club sets because of the traditions of the club, manage away, mate. You go and do what you got to do. These are the only caveats, because look, this is a different club. We're not telling you you've got to play these players. We're just saying to you, you've got to have at least one academy player in your squad. That's the only ask. You don't have to play them, but they've got to be in that squad. You can manage within that. The club should set the standard. But guess what? We've got people that don't know the club. When David Gill left, when Ferguson left, when Moyes come in and got rid of Phelan, got rid of all the backroom staff, as soon as those Ferdinand's retired, Vidic is retired, Evra retired, Rooney retired, all those players started to leave and retire, we lost everything. Could we prize Simeone out of Atletico? Yes, we could, but I don't know what we do with him. Ahmed and Brian are back. Simeone will cost us a fortune. Pochettino is not a good fit. I get the shout, but oh my God, if he said yes, the board he had on him. 3 possible options: Emery, Frank, maybe the fella at Leeds. Or not Frank for me, mate. Oof. Not Frank. For me, I mean, look, I respect the view, but Thomas Frank for me, God no. I'd go for Emery. Is it Falk? I'm not sure about Falk, but again, it's can we turn up our nose at these players? Frank for me would be a no on the basis that he's gone to Spurs, and look, Spurs are Spurs. I think he's been given the lift up, and I don't think he's done well. Emery, 100%. Falk, again, can we afford to turn up our nose at Falk? No, the way that he's got Leeds playing, would that be and these are the things we need to change about this club. Is we almost, as you say, we need to go back. We need to go backwards to go forwards. We need a manager who's going to come in, steady the ship, build a good squad, and then it's almost like when you're playing a PlayStation game, right? And you're playing like an RPG or whatever it's called, and your character starts off being crap, and then you build a base, and then you get better, and with like every stage. That is what we need to go back and do. Is we need to go back, keep a good core of players, add on to that, get a good coach in, and then build. And I think that would be quicker than trying to do these projects. Absolute nonsense. Nobody says Daniel Farke for me. No. Martinez put in the midfield needs to happen. I'm swinging towards Ancelotti. Premier League experience, fair enough. Didn't do great with Everton, but I think he's a good shout. I'm not feeling Xavi. Maybe Tuchel could work. A no to Glazner? Absolutely not. There's no to Glazner. 800 plus. Look, I don't think people know the figures enough. 800 plus million pounds to service the debt. It is ridiculous. Luis Enrique isn't available this summer. I bet we end up with Waistcoat Southgate. Please look guys, give us a like, favourite, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. 800 million interest. Yep. 835.6 just in interest debt, including the transfers. We're touching 3 billion. Enrique would be another special moment. Disaster, would Enrique be a Mourinho, Madrid or Barca? I don't care about either. Madrid's media spin, JB, it doesn't align with their content. Protests are fucking useless. If you need to protest, then stop buying tickets. That's why they don't talk about protests. Sack the board, the Glazers out, 100%. What's that? Arabea says hi, hello. What's the latest on the interim, says Ryan. Basically, I got a message today saying look, Ollie's still the favourite, but there is some considerations. You know, who's the backroom staff going to be? You know, they paid Ollie £10 million to piss off. I don't want Ollie. Look, whether or not I'm saying that Ollie is probably going to be the guy, I don't want Ollie. I think it would be a disaster, but it's all about PR. So look, Ollie is considered by many, and from what I've been told, he's still the lead choice. Carrier came in and put over a good case. Look, some people like the majority like Ollie, some people like Carrick, some people like Fletcher in charge. Ruud van Nistelrooy is still there or thereabouts. But this is about ego. This is political. This is political. This is not about who's the best for the interim. This is about who's going to create the positivity. They're also dragging it out because they want to drag it out as long as they possibly can, because the longer it goes on, the more time the window goes. And basically, they'll say, well, there wasn't time. You know, we didn't get in the coaching time, so we couldn't do any business because, you know, Kobe Mainoo's now going to stay, you know, because he knows he's going to play. You know, it's just, yeah, I've not noticed any other channels speaking of the protests. United is divided and won't make any success with this character. Ineos, are you mad? Says Big Tony. Man United for sale. Can you give a recap of the main headline? Yeah, so basically, look, it's been reported today, and again, you give your opinion in on this. I'll give you my opinion again as well. Is this Jason Wilcox? His ego is mad, and it's being reported behind the scenes. The reason for Amarin's outburst, the manager and not the coach, because behind the scenes, Wilcox has basically said, and he feels that he is the manager in the background, and Amarin is a coach. And this is why Amarin exploded, because Wilcox's ego is out of fucking control. He's egotistical. He's absolutely off his fucking head. And if you listen to what Rio's, look, it's all there. It's all there. I've put a short out, Rio defending his mate, basically saying that, you know, Wilcox has got this idea about how he wants to get United back to the top. Wilcox thinks that he's the manager behind the scenes. He thinks that he's the man clearly dictating a back four. He told Amarin he needs to play a back four. Mate, you were part of the team that hired a guy that plays a back three. And then you're telling him you're not even a manager. And you're telling your coach you brought in, who plays a fucking back three, who you'd never back, to play a back four. I mean, who is Wilcox to tell anybody? Southampton, they went down. City, he was a youth team coach. Who the fuck is Jason Wilcox? Somebody please get this twat out. Please. He should have gone before the coach. Egotistical wanker. Like, he doesn't know the club. Rio talks out of his ass. I know he's a mate and he's a good guy. And again, this is the fucking spin that we've got to listen to from ex-players. He's a good guy. He's honest. I don't care. I literally don't care if you used to room together, you used to share the same bed, and you used to tell each other stories about life, and you used to go on outings together, you used to sit on the grass, talking about your futures. I don't give a fuck if he's your best mate. He's not best in class. He doesn't know anything about this club. There's nothing about the history. He doesn't know what it means to be at this club. And he's telling people in the background that he is the manager. Piss off. You are not the manager. And this is why Rubin exploded. This is why Rubin did and said the things that he did, because you've got somebody who is the director of football. And to make this worse, and people can say stuff, if he thinks that he's the manager, have some balls and you front the press conferences. If you are the coach, if you are the manager behind the scenes, step up to the plate. Manager, you hold some of the pressers. Never mind throwing your cannon fodder out there. I mean, this guy is apparently the coach. But you're sending out Fletcher. You're sending out Darren Fletcher, who is an under-18s coach, because you've got no balls. You're sending out Fletcher, who is the caretaker. You're the manager behind the scenes. You're the one dictating the back four. How about you come out and you explain why there is no signings coming in? You go out and you explain to us why this team is good. You explain why you sacked the coach. You want, because Wilcox, you're a coward. Absolute coward who's got no class. So you'd rather send out Amrin for Pelwers. You'd rather send out Darren Fletcher to take your flack, because you're an absolute fucking cretin waste of space. Recap done. Ollie Carrick are embarrassing. Ollie failed at Besiktas. Carrick was sacked by Borough. Ollie and Carrick have failed awfully in their respective careers. Did someone suggest Daniel Farke? Alex says, couldn't care less who the interim is, just interested in making sure we get the right manager for the next season to take the club forward. Can't imagine Daniel Farke getting a job. That's how crap the recruitment is. Alex Ferguson is not an idiot. We have a group of footballers that doesn't mean a team. Exactly. Taking 1 billion out of the club while leaving it 720 in debt, having paid 800 interest should be illegal. It should be illegal. It is an utter disgrace. I'm tired of ex-players using the club as their retirement benefits. Who do you think comes in? I think, to be quite frank, I think it's going to be Solskjaer. Remind people, respect the room or you'll be banned. Should be Van Persie. No spamming. Exactly. 4-4-2. Lindelof is winning 13 of 15 games. Is the club the issue and not the manager, some players and the owners? I think Lindelof is in a good side. But again, players seem to leave this club and they go on to do better things. I think, this is Sully, this is what I think. The myth is that, no, actually this is not a myth. The reason why players leave this club and do better is because they go into better teams. On paper, they might not be better teams, but they're run as a team. They are better run teams. They're an actual team. The reason why these players leave and become better is because we're a bunch of we have a collective of players who are a collective of players. They're not a team. They are a collective of players. Attack. Nick Arucci swung his hammer. Zach says, hi, hello, Zach. I actually disagree with you. You need a shot caller who can make all the calls from buying to gameplays, who meets the standard. Fair enough. Surely not Thomas Frank engine at Spurs. The project never changes. Top four. Exactly. The project for me is winning the league. The project for me is winning the league, Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. Didn't lose everything. It's down to your board. Simple. Thomas Frank, no engine, no thank you. Emery, yes, I've definitely considered. No Farke. Roy Keane wants Howe. Thought on him. I think he's a good manager. I would have Eddie Howe in a heartbeat. Howe, if he wasn't embedded in Newcastle, given a 5 to 7 year deal and control. JB, your main contacts have told you who might possibly get the job. Apparently, I believe there's a bit of a shortlist. But save Ollie in, and does he really? No, Ollie's Ollie's not going to get the job. And look, in terms of the manager, I did ask the question. Do not believe that United are not in a stage whereby they've got a short list. Well, they've got a long list, but United are not. Don't believe that United are as organised as they would make you think. I did ask the question, and what has been said is, you've got the mainstays, you've got the Glasners, the Arolas, Ancelotti's not really on the list. The Gelsman is one that has been said to watch out for, but they're not as organised as that, mate. They really are not. They really are not. So any name you hear right now, add it to the list. I think money could talk with Howe, but he's invested in Newcastle. I'm not sure who they'd say I want 100%. Is Nick Carucci getting his shirt? Yes, he is. So I will sort that out. So don't worry about that. I will sort it out. It's about who's going to keep their mouth shut and do as we say. Simple. Least in Boomer back for City. What shirt we gone for, lads? I'm getting the verse one. I'm not sure. Choices I do know. If you go on to Club Retros, if you go on there, have a look, mate. Excuse the lingo, but Wilcox is full of shit. You don't need to, mate. You do not. This is the 10 o'clock show, mate. You don't need to excuse the lingo. I'll say shit. Wilcox has got a bell on his head. Where did you see the shirt options? Club Retros, and there's a United bit, and basically you pretty much got every kit on there. So go on there, and there's I'll put it in the in the thing. Let's have a look. I'll put the name in the chat, so go and do that, buddy. So Alex Ferguson needs to get out of the club. He has too much influence. Disagree. Abdullah, disagree. Ferguson doesn't need to be in the club to have an influence. I don't think you realise all the ex-players still call him boss. Ferguson has no physical presence in terms of his influence on the running of the club. His influence is on his players. It's always going to be. It's almost like when you go to school, right? And I saw my teacher about 6 months ago, right? Whenever I see my teachers from school, I will always still call them Miss and Sir. Always. Doesn't matter if I'm 42 years old. Doesn't matter if they're now 70s. I always still call them Sir or Miss. It's got nothing to do with that. Ferguson will always look. Ferguson is still an influential person just by being alive. His ex-players will always speak to him because of who he is. Influence is different to control. Yep. Cool. Okay. I'll do that. Oddball throw now. Get Emery. Bring in Wiltshire, Watkins, and a decent centre off, and build from there. Please, United fans, we are dying. Bring back our team, says Richard. stop sitting on the fence and tell us what you really think of Wilcox. Yeah, I know, mate. No, I do. You know, I know. I'm a little bit of a flake. You know, I won't tell you. You know. Football Second says hi. Tresco says nice to meet you. Are you British? Yes, I am. United board will be holding interviews for the manager's job at the local McDonald's. No experience needed. Love it, mate. Joe says, as an interim, here's one to ponder. Postecoglou, followed by Eddie Howe as full-time coach in the summer, from a biased Celtic fan. Do you know what? It's a no. It's a no for Postecoglou, but do you know what? It would be funny. It would be entertaining. I would almost take him for the laughs. Jerry, that's a funny one. Cheers, subbed. Thank you, my friend. Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate the link. Fergie gets respect that United like Martin O'Neill. Exactly. Simon Greenshoe, have you had a good weekend and avoided the snow? Yes. Thank you, Simon. I hope you're doing extremely well. Yes, I've avoided the snow. It's been bloody freezing, but yes, I've avoided. So what I wanted to talk about was, so look, Owen Hargreaves did an interview for TNT, BT Sports, and this made me laugh, right? So basically, Fletcher was talking about the DNA, right? Talking about the DNA of the club, talking about playing youth, talking about scoring goals, and we needed to attack. No, going back to those philosophies, right? I get the point about the youth. Maybe Amrin should have played the youth a little bit more, but I take that point. But when we're talking about attacking play, we're talking about the going back to the more attacking play, right? I mean, for fuck's sake, like Amarin. And whether I agree or not, and I don't agree that we were going to finish in a top 4 race, Amarin was 3 points off top 3 when you fucking sacked him. We were 3rd behind Arsenal and City for the most goals scored. We were 3rd on XG. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of XG, but look, I'm just going to say facts are these, right? We're talking about more attacking. This club is going for a more attacking style. You had a coach that was 3 points off of top 4. For all you top 4 fans, 3 points off of the top 4, right? More shots, more goals, more attacks. And this club is now going to write off a season because of their ego. Amarin was only sacked because he told the truth. Amarin was sacked because Jason Wilcox's ego is out of control. Amarin wasn't sacked because of their formation, the tactics. Amarin was sacked because he spoke out. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, Amarin was 3, and look, I've said this all season. I don't think we're going to finish 4th, but whether I'm right or wrong, we were factually 3 points from a top 4. This club, for its genius, and it just goes to show the people in charge, suck it up, Buttercup, right? What was the point in sacking a manager before the end of the season, bringing in an interim coach? You're 3 points behind 4th place. So this club, and for all its crap, they're going to write off a season being 3 points behind top 4. Make it make sense. And then you've got Hargreaves and Fletcher talking about the DNA. They want to go for a more attacking style. Amarin brought that. Amarin didn't have the place, and he was still within 3 points of a top 4. I still don't prescribe that we were going to finish. I would have always said between 8th and 10th. But right now, as you're sacking the coach, it's 3 points behind top 4, and you're going to write the season off. Just make it make sense to me. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It just how can you write off a season? You're halfway through a season and you're within 3 points of a top 4 place. Absolutely just ridiculous. I just don't get it. Crazy talk. I'll get on to Glasner as well today, because I just wanted to talk about that. Let's have a little look. And always wins a trophy if he gets a second season. Do your job from Keno is the phrase we need to keep repeating across the fabric of the club. And do you know what, Sully? Right. I listened to an interview with Keane, and they were talking, right? And the one thing that I love about Keane, right, and he was talking about it, and they were saying, and he said, I don't love United. I'm an ex-player, but they are not my team, right? And they said to him, why do you, like, what inspired you? And he said, it was my job. Like, he said, I'm not different than a postman. That was my job, to play for United. I had a job to do. Do your job. And he said, what used to wind him up was, if you don't give everything for your job and you are doing your job, that was the worst thing. He said that he could put up with people who weren't as good, but do your job. And it's simple, Sully. You're so right. It's simple. This team, and then Fletcher as well, by the way, this sort of made me laugh as well. And he was talking about how United players from the past used to do the simple things right. And Fletcher's saying that he's having conversations with these players about doing the simple things right, passing, doing a 5-yard pass, making decisions for yourself, right? He's telling 300k a week stars, 180k a week stars, they should be passing. I don't get why each manager that we have to have conversations with players about passing from side to side, trying to break lines with passes. I mean, at this point, this is football 101, right? Making right decisions on the pitch, passing, fighting for your teammates, and fighting for the badge. Like, you don't have to be a United supporter to fight for the badge, right? If I was lucky enough to play for Scunthorpe, if I was lucky enough to play for, I don't know, Swindon Town, Coventry City, right? I may not support them, and I would always support this club. But I'd always play for the badge. Like, not because I'm a passion, like, not because I'd be a person who would, any club that I go to, I'd be kissing the badge. But you play for the badge because you're playing for what the badge means. It doesn't matter who you play for. Once you go to that team, your responsibility is to understand what that team is, your job and your role. If you're a striker, it doesn't matter who you play for. You should be respecting that club, respecting that fan. It's not about you. It's not about your ego. It's about those fans, the previous fans, the history of that club. So you should be playing for the badge, but not kissing the badge. You should be playing for that badge because of the fans. You should be playing for the badge because of what it represents: history, fan base, family. People coming to the game to watch you. People come to the game to bond. People go to the game because their granddads played, their mums used to, support the club. they might have a family member that played for the club, and that's what it's about. And we don't have these players. We don't have these players who don't understand that even if you don't support the club, you're still playing for the badge. You're playing for the history. You're going to be part of the tapestry of this club. You should be. You can be able to be. You look at Cristiano, Rooney, prime example. Rooney, he's an Evertonian, supports Everton, came through the academy, but you look at what he did at this club. Keane himself. You look. He's still not the biggest fan of this club, but you look at what he did. You look at what he achieved. These are the players that we need. Red Dev says, an Australian here, of course. No Big Ange, please. Would Wenger come? No. The news around Manchester JB is it's still him for PSG. He's supposed to be the main target manager in the summer. And I think I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with it. I think I've said on here before, if I could pick any manager, he would probably be the one that I would go for. Because if you can take a PSG team, and look, they play in an easier league, right? If you take a PSG, take Mbappe out of that team and then rebuild that team, look, Enrique for me has shown that he's a builder of teams, but will he get players? I just need to build solid manager to steady the ship for a few years and then start to think about bringing in someone who can take it to the next level. Red Devil has some Aussie blood in me, but agree about Ange. It's been interesting reading the comments. What is the glue we all believe in? Is foundation excellence and longevity, and above all controlled by the manager. If the board exactly. Do you think Southgate is out the picture now? Because at one point Southgate was like, yeah, Southgate. Forget Southgate. I think as stupid as Ineos are, as stupid as the Glazers are, as stupid as Sir Jim is, they know the fan base would absolutely erupt. I'm struggling to keep faith that we're even going to finish in the top 10. Not now the way the recent events have unfolded. Yes, really can't take that Rubin's fired. Can I just say thanks for the stream, constructive, accurate and factual. Your knowledge, everyone's opinion. You acknowledge everyone's opinion. Thanks, mate. Odd Gav Southgate isn't that mad option. Amrin Alters will still be arrogant if we finish top 3, top 4. That would mean that there is no difference, and Mbuma Ahmad would have come back from AFCON 2. Ruben versus Wilcox in a boxing match. Ruben wins. Amrin basically told the truth, in my opinion. Wilcox was saying you can't handle the truth. He wanted to be sacked, though. You can tell me those were words of someone who wanted to be there. No, Dominic, he wanted to be sacked. Wilcox, again, this is a verbatim. This is you can believe what you want to believe. I choose to believe it, not because it suits the rhetoric, not because it suits my. I don't have an agenda. The Wilcox stuff is based on the things that I've seen and the things I've been told and the things that I hear. It makes complete sense. Amrin wanted to leave because the position was untenable. Wilcox, thinking that he is the manager, finishes it. Wilcox's ego is bigger than the Grand Canyon, and if not for Wolves, West Ham, Burnley, draws would be firmly in the top 4. That's 8 points drop just there. You're right, they sacked him for saying the truth. His ego is the size of the sun. Any manager scared to speak the truth is not a manager. That is the voice of a monkey playing. End of. I do agree. Who do you think going to be the caretaker for 4 months? I can only go with what I've been told. I still think it's going to be Ollie. I still think, look, it is not a huge margin, and look, this could change. I fully accept that this could change, but I think it's Ollie right now. I do. If you look at every great side, most pass forward, slice the opposition, adapt, change, make shit up on the fly. That's what United do historically. Big up JB. Danny is in the house. Legend. I do almost anything for 180 to 300k. There's most things. I would pretty much do most things, to be fair, mate. Let's have a look. After today's defeat by Macclesfield, would you still have Glasner? I will come on to that as well. That's going to be my next topic to talk about as well, Simon. So I will come on to that. Kenton are keen. York, the names are legends since Rooney, undervalued as he was, who filled the role since. Exactly. No, people will tell you, and look, again, this seems like an agenda, but it's not. I'm very, very fortunate, as many of you guys are as well. I come from a time of, I've been supporting club since 1988, right? 87, 88, right? Been very, very fortunate to see the likes of Parker, Schmeichel, Parker, Pallister, Irwin, Sharp, Ince, Keno, Carrick, Hughes, Kanchelskis, Giggsy, York Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer, Saha, Rooney, Cristiano, Ruud van Nistelrooy, all Scholesy, all sorts of players, right? People will have you believe that Bruno Fernandes is in that mold, right? Fernandes was a fantastic player. Okay, he is not a legend. He is not part of that legendary status, right? And I do agree with you. Since Rooney was probably the last player like that we had. There is nobody else. And look, I don't mind if in your opinion Bruno Fernandes is that player. I couldn't care less if you told me that Rasmus was a legend to you. Legends are personal, right? I believe, this is my view, the greatest player to play for this club was Mark Hughes, right? The reason for that, he was I was a striker. I used to like that type of player. I'm Welsh, so Mark Hughes for me was and will always be my hero. Mark Hughes will always be my hero. Mark Hughes will always be my favourite player. I think he's the greatest player. Doesn't mean he is. So I fully accept that your greatest player for a club is personal to you. But in my view, Bruno Fernandes is not that player. Nobody else comes close. He is the best manager to be in for PSG. I do agree. I've seen Southgate in Manchester, Taylor being fitted for a new waistcoat. No jokes, he's coming. Oh, mate, please no. Broadman accent you got there. Oh, come on, Johnny. Johnny, don't be one of those guys, mate. Come on now. Don't be one of those guys, buddy. Semenyo scored today. 10-1 win for City. Johnny B, legend, mate. It's all good. JB is from the ice. Stone cold ice running through his veins. It's true, mate. It is true. It's true. Jacob Perkins says, think Howe should have had his chance after interim manager. What's he done with the tune? He deserves it. No, I agree with you. I carved the first ever hieroglyphics. Thanks, buddy. Rooney hardly got a word after his brother led Macclesfield to victory. Just sack the board because he's not doing it. Job right. Amron is a good manager. Snap JB. Mark Hughes was my hero. The goals he scored. Come on, mate. Just look. Exactly. Sparky for me. Like you could look. I know that Cantona is a legend. I know Keane is a legend. Like I'm not saying that these players are not legends, but I think your own personal legend, your own greatest player, is personal to you. And I don't care if your favourite player in the entire world was just trying to think of a random player, was Van der Beek, right? Van der Beek could have been your greatest player. Pogba, fine, right? But Sparky for me, Sparky was absolute legend. I love Sparky. Sparky was the initial foundation for Fergie's dominance. I've seen United relegated, slip from the void after Ron fucking Atkinson. We need that leadership now. Would you still accept Glasner after the Palace got humbled? Why is Rooney not even being considered? Has more experience than Carrick, for example. Van der Beek even flopped at Everton, originally Salford. But so, Glasner. Look, one of the fun things that I wanted to talk about was Glasner. Now, Glasner. The funny thing about Glasner that makes me laugh is this: like, people who have been on here, and again, don't disrespect people's views. We've all got our views, right? Same people were saying that Amarin out wanted a Glasner. Still plays a back three, right? Fine. But we've been talking about a Belabor on this channel, and other channels have as well. I've seen plenty of stuff out there basically saying that Belabor is a friends. Hi, massive friends. Manchester friends. Stockport friends. 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 Sorry. Sorry. I had to do it. Sorry. Friends. Sorry. So look. We talk about a Belabor, right? And the stuff out there is, he's had one good season. he's had one good season. Football friends, friends. I mean, look, I'm literally on here talking about friends. I'm a friend. Manchester United friends. Friends. Anyway, I'm a sad git. Look, we had trials at West Ham. Nice. Palace's short run in FA Cup holders ended, which could also trigger Guehi's departure. Look, one of the things that I wanted to say on the Glasner stuff. Now, look, one result, as we all know, doesn't mean the end of the world. Bloody Bebe, Jesus Christ. You're putting your beliefs out online. That's basically, but mate, look, the one thing about me on here that I will always do is I don't lie. I always remember the things that I say. You can go back, and I will always remember the things that I say. I'm honest. I don't do things for clicks. And I also apologize. If I get things wrong, I will apologize, and I will remember the things that I say, and I will apologize. But look, I've got some strong views. I've been supporting this club for nearly 38 years. I've got to be true to myself, right? So Glasner. Let's talk about Glasner. Now, one game doesn't mean that you're a terrible coach. I still don't think he is, right? But we need to have a conversation, because Belabor, right? What can we have a conversation about a Belabor that goes along the lines of what a good player last season, this season not particularly great. Should we buy him because he's not been great this season? There are other players that have had the same discussion about. Why don't managers have the same? Now, Glasner for me today, look, you can talk about a Grimsby game, right? The Grimsby game was absolutely dreadful, was absolutely awful, right? You don't need a manager to go to Grimsby and beat Grimsby. These players are athletes, are at the top of the football game, playing in the Premier League, supposedly the best league in the world, playing for the best club, in my opinion, in the world. You go to Grimsby and you lose. Okay, you lose on penalties. Okay, look, I'm trying to find the positives here, right? Your Crystal Palace, I don't care. I don't care less if you change the whole team. If you play for Crystal Palace, you play for Crystal Palace. As far as I'm concerned, you're a Crystal Palace player, you're a Premier League player. You go to Macclesfield, and it's not as if Macclesfield are top of the the Football League North, whatever it is. It's not as if they're in first place. It's not as if they're riding high. They've got part timers. They've got full-time players, but part-time players, right? And you lose to Macclesfield. I don't want Glasner. Look, there are some results. There are some results in football that should never happen, right? And I know it's the FA Cup. I know it's, no, not for me. Not for me. Glasner this season, look, Palace have been doing okay this season. I don't think Palace have been I don't think Palace have been terrible this season. I don't think they've been as good. I don't know whether Glasner's head has been turned, but I don't want a manager. I don't want a manager that's lost to Macclesfield. Like, he's not best in class. I'm sick of having these hipster managers. I like a Glasner. I do like him, but I don't want a Glasner. Like, if we're going back to a back four, let's go to a back four. Let's go get the best in class. Glasner is not best in class. Like, I'm not saying that one result changes it, but it has to. It has to. You can't. I don't care. Thomas Glasner didn't need to be there today. Glasner didn't want to be there. Glasner shouldn't. Yes, Scott, I will be doing a watch along tomorrow. Yes, I will be doing a watch along for the Brighton match tomorrow. So I'll be on about 3:45 because I think the game's 4:30, isn't it? So I'll probably be on about 3:30, 3:45 tomorrow. So watch out for that. It's a no from me. I no Premier League. And look, Macclesfield Town, congratulations tonight. Absolute brilliant. Macclesfield Town, wonderful. What a result. And they can't take anything away from that result. Glasner didn't need to be there today. There is no excuse for not beating a 14th placed, by the way, 14th place non-league time with part-timers in the squad. It's a no from me. 100% no. There are, when you get interviewed for a job, right? Let's just say you're going for a job, right? You've done everything right. Your CV is great. You walk into the interview, you're talking, and then you suddenly do a massive fart, right? You do a massive, disgusting, stinky fart, right? Sit there, and then you walk out of the room. Forget it. There are some things that in life you just do, and that ends the conversation. The result for me today ends the conversation. It's not like you've gone to, I don't know, like a League Two side, like a Grimsby. It's not like you've gone to Grimsby and what they did to us, right? Still no excuse. I'm not giving that an excuse. Fart jokes are funny. There are two things in life that always make me laugh: boobies and farts. Those two always make me laugh. You can never boobies and farts. Always funny. Brilliant. Basically, today was a big, massive fart. It was in fact, what it was today. It wasn't just a fart. It was a follow through. It was probably one of those disgusting, big, sweaty follow through farts that stained your pants and you walk off because you're just embarrassed. That's what it was today. And for me, that ended the Glasner chat today. It ended the Glasner chat for me today. I do not want it. Glasner for me is done for me. But look, I'm sure the board in its wisdom will appoint him. I couldn't have taken MU. I couldn't have taken to Grimsby and won it. You could have taken them to Grimsby, agreed. Brighton is the bogey team and Welbeck are bogey striker. That was the biggest cup shock I've ever known. It was. Look, Macclesfield Town, absolute respect to Macclesfield. Absolute, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased for them because what a result. But I'll tell you what, if I was those Palace players and a Glasner tonight, I would be refunding those away fans. And it's no disrespect to Macclesfield. 14th in the National League. Awful. I like to think the players are simply sabotaging games to get so bad the Glazers sell up. It drives me crazy to think what the fuck is happening at the club. Fart jokes are funny. They are. Never underestimate the lower sides. We've fallen into that trap. The Palace and then Holders fell into the same trap. Big fart in the convo, an awkward stare before you walk off. There's nothing like a fart in a lift as well, by the way. You fart in a lift, walk out. Legendary stuff. Roy Keane made a great point. They need a manager who can just walk into the dressing room and the players look and get off their seat and think, wow, what a legend. Agree with you. Boos and farts, always something most guys find funny. I do agree. Is there any chance that Wilcox gets sacked? I think if we don't make Champions League, if we don't make Europe, I think he gets sacked. Yes. A shit-stained shot. It is. That's exactly what it is. Forest lost to Wrexham. These defeat. But the thing is, though, yes, but Wrexham are Championship, aren't they? So I think it's more acceptable to lose to a Wrexham than it is to a 14th place non-league side. Have watching FA Cup games in the early rounds, and today Macclesfield were awesome. They were, Tanya. They were. I loved it completely. I loved it. Never mind Wilcox. The whole board needs to go. Needs to start with Wilcox. Jacob Perkins says, "Is it the board, players, coaching staff that is the biggest fault right now at your club?" Glazers, in this order: Glazers, Ineos, board, football inside, players. That's it. It's good to see Rooney, who has done well with his club. They must be looking forward to this draw. Wilcox thinks he's playing championship manager. Everyone is after his head. I do agree. The rise of Wrexham has been incredible to watch. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to go. Simon says, I bet Rooney didn't think this would happen when he closed his eyes last night. He didn't. Guys, I will be back tomorrow. I will be doing a watch along tomorrow. I'll probably be on about 3:45, possibly. I'll be on I'll put in a stream tomorrow. So I'll be doing a watch along for that tomorrow. Look, positivity tomorrow. Let's see. Look, I want to win tomorrow. I can't stand these plays, but I want something positive for us to talk about, right? I want us to have something positive to talk about as fans. I don't care about the plays tomorrow. I want to win for us fans. I want to win for us tomorrow. We deserve a performance. This is not on Fletcher at all. These games, I do not blame him at all. I absolutely do not blame him at all. I want these players to start playing for the fans. So let's see tomorrow if we can win. I can't call it tomorrow. I demand a win, but fingers crossed. So look, guys, You are all legends of this chat. We've how do we get comparing United to Wrexham? Both are billionaire owners, but Wrexham have owners that believe in the club. Exactly that. You guys are legends. Look, thank you for being here. Mighty Red says, "Come on, Seagulls." Look, who knows? Who knows? Who knows tomorrow? But look, guys, legends of the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Look, any like, any sub, it really does help out the channel. You guys are legends. Exactly. Don't forget to hit the like button. Spread the word of the channel as well. Like, this community is what makes this. These chats are legendary. You guys are legend. Look, don't ever underestimate you being here. Makes your channel fantastic. So look, guys, I will be back tomorrow. Legends. Hopefully we can win. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel. Absolute legends, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, and see you on the next one.